I'm Eric Haugen. There's my website, my Patreon, my Instagram, my Spotify artist page. Go ahead and like my videos and subscribe to my channel if you determine this content helps you out. It helps me when you do that. Okay, today we are further unpacking some Josh Homme, I think that's how you say it, techniques from the Vice Guitar Moves Noisy series with Matt Sweeney. We had talked about his chords before, those kind of... we had talked about those chords. Now let's talk about his use of the Lydian flat 7 scale, which, okay, here we go. Be patient. What we're going to do here is go through all the scales that lead to the Lydian flat 7, as in, say you got, I'll turn off my Augustus octave fuzz, by the way, that's what... It's a great pedal. Let's turn it off. The first scale you need to know is the major pentatonic. Here we go. There's the first octave of it. It's My Girl, Temptations. That will always go with that shape. So here's the deal, man. The way to understand things is you always don't just learn some dots and then throw your fingers at them. It's just like picking up a trinket at a junk store. You're gonna be like, look at this cool thing I got. I don't know what to do with it, so it's just gonna go in the junk drawer. If we associate things with chords and then the other things that they look like, you have a much better chance of recalling them and using them. For real. Like, do you see the laser beam here? This is like as like my heart, my brain to you. You gotta see how stuff looks like other stuff if you want to use stuff. Because pentatonics are the simplest version of a thing. Because scales and chords, by the way, don't exist as separate, crazy, look at this over here, look at this over here, look at this over here, look at this over here. This is the thing I tell my students. It's a geological stratification. Pentatonics are the simplest thing, and then come major scales, and then come modes, and actually the fourth weirdest things are these weird scales, which are like mutated modes. So that's why I'm like, sorry, you gotta be patient. You gotta know how to play a major pentatonic if you want to do weird Josh Homme scale. All right, there's major pentatonic. Let's go ahead and now turn that into full major. Notice I like to stop at each octave to remind myself, hey, octaves. There was one octave. Yeah, here, blah, 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 blah. There they all are on one page. I'll go ahead and just put that on my Patreon for free. A major scale. Getting there. We're headed towards now. Pentatonic, then major. Now Lydian, it's a mode. By the way, those of you who follow my channel, you know that I have a whole series on music theory for guitarists. That's like the stuff that actually shows up, and Lydian is one of them. All it is a major scale with a sharp 4. Boom. Here it comes again. Now we can finally get to a Lydian flat 7. Because there's a 7th degree. Let's do that one octave again. Next octave. Coming down. Now here's where we get to, if we want to get comfortable with the scale and learn what to do with it, step 1, we just run it. And I'm going to run each octave, just one octave up, one octave down, because I think, that there's a temptation to just run your fingers across both octaves, but then you don't see where the 7 is, or again, it gets us into that thing that I loathe of just dots. I throw my fingers at dots and I have no idea what they mean. Oh, don't do that. down. And let's do the second octave. Yeah, so there's that little thing going on, very, very Semitic sounding thing. By the way, I've observed any of like the Dorian flat 5, Mixolydian flat 6, any of like the weirdo modes, mutated modes, do start to feel a lot like klezmer music. Anyway. Cool. Then the next thing I think to do, once we're like, all right, I got a good handle on each octave, minimally, I suggest running things in scale sequences, which just means I'll do a very common one, groups of 3 notes. So I'm going to start here and go up 3 notes. Then I go to the second note and go up 3 notes. Then the third note, up 3 notes. Next note, up 3 notes. Next note, where was I? Come down now. Let's do that to the next octave. Coming down. You know, that would be one day of sitting around and just doing that, of just, you know, because you're trying to see the scale, get it under your fingers, and then start to teach your fingers how you can move around it. Now that it's in our fingers, then we start to think about, we start to look at it. Oh, now let's have fun. Let's put effects back on. That's not actually what I was going to talk about. I love that pedal so much, the Dusky Augustus Octafuzz. And my Maleko Echo 616 Dark analog delay is a magic. So here it is without delay. With the delay. Not only does it give me that delay, but it also gives me like a fatness comes in with it. That's a special pedal. I think they're out of print or whatever now. Okay, next thing I say to do, now that we have this weird scale and it's under our fingers, again, we look at ways that it is similar to scales we already know. So I'm looking down at it, and I'm looking for kind of licks that I already know that are that kind of shared. So here's what I mean. There's like a Brian Setzer, like a rockabilly lick that's really a major pentatonic lick. That's in the opening of This Cat's on a Hot Tin Roof. I can't play it as fast as he does, but whatever. So there's a major pentatonic lick. You're like, okay. So then what my brain says to do is, all right, let's tack on some of the weirdo notes from Lydian flat 7. Yeah, so I put that sharp 4 now, instead of over here, I put him, her, it, zay, z, zay on the 8th fret there. Same difference. That to me is the coolest way to incorporate new scales and new sounds. You do a lick that you already knew from another thing, but then you're like, well, that actually shares tones. So let me go ahead and like bring in the weirdo notes at the end. Like, let's see. notice I'm tapping my foot while I play. I'm not trying to play fast. I'm just trying to groove comfortably with cameras on me and 100,000 people watching. You think about it, that's actually a freakishly weird thing. Looking out my window, I just see my neighbor Kathy's garden and some trees. There's some doves in the tree right there. Hey guys. All right, let's look at another one. Like also ones notes that I spot like in this scale. Like a common, that's common blues like. That's pretty cool actually. All right, so. Slow it down. So yeah, again, looking for the notes that are different. Yeah, and yeah. That is a fun. That's a wrong note. That's Danny Elfman lick. That's in the Simpsons theme song. There's a giant run. This is detouring, but I think it goes. It's one of the hardest themes to play. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, there's an arrangement I gotta do. Can't play it though. Okay, so one last thing. How are we doing on time? Oh, plenty of time. So about 4 years ago, I did a video called Dickie Betts' Stutter Trick. Which is this really cool 6-note syncopation against 4/4 time. So it's 6 notes. There it is, right? And it always works wherever you have 2 notes on one string and then 1 note on a lower string. I can do it. Hold on. Brain thinking. Okay, now the final phase here is thinking about appropriate context of things, and this is a big deal. This scale, if I'm actually thinking about it, it's such a weirdo. It's such a weirdo that we need to really think about when we would use it. To quote Jeff Goldblum from Jurassic Park, let us not, your scientists were so concerned with whether you could do something, you did not think about whether or not you should. And that's a big deal with licks, that's a big deal with modes, kind of a big deal about everything. Let's really think about it. So of course, one way that you're always going to be safe, let me move my looper pedal closer, is if the thing was just, the groove was just chilling on. Just hanging on A, then you're fine. know, any mode, whenever it's just staying on a 1 chord for forever, is going to be okay, you know, because you can actually, I could have thrown any mode. But then if I look at this scale, I'm like, you know what? You're Lydian. Okay, Lydian. All right, so that would mean a Lydian change in A would be A going up to a B7 and back. That's what I call a Lydian giveaway progression, appropriate modal context. Cool. I won't lie though, you do have to be very careful about certain notes, because if I'm honest, I'm looking at this B7 chord and realizing that that flat 7 note is actually a big friction against that chord. You would be a little bit careful about him. So you'd be a little bit judicious about when you bring in that specific note. Because he's fine on the chord, that first. You just gotta be a little bit careful about that note. And because this is Lydian flat 7, I'm like, oh, you could actually use it where you would use Mixolydian also. So it's a mutation that's actually between the two modes. Cool stuff happens when you think about stuff. So let's do a Mixolydian change, which is actually A down to G. Watch out, now the Lydian note is kind of weird, because really now that's a friction against the G. But now that flat 7 note is totally safe for these observations I had. It's like on the first chord you could always. The first chord you can always get away with the whole mode. It's just when it shifts that you gotta be like, oh, there's friction there. Final other Mixolydian giveaway progression will be A going up to D minor. That's a Neil Young groove. And this one actually, anything works, I notice. Check out the weird ring mod stuff with this pedal. I cackle with delight. that does nothing. I put the retro vibe on. What's going on? Stop. Everybody stop. All right. So the main takeaway from this ramble today is yeah, cool scale for sure. I think we explained it, but stratification system, that everything you know, chords, scales, and rhythms, the three elements of music, rhythm, harmony, and melody, exist in the system of there's the simplest version, and then the next version, and actually, so this one is the weirdo version, the most colorful version. So that's, I'm obsessed with, my mission in life is to make guitar make sense. And guitar doesn't make sense because it doesn't have one pedagogy that is agreed upon. It's kind of everybody just is like, here's what I think. And I know I'm doing the same thing, but I'm so obsessed with simplicity, minimalism, and efficiency that I'm like, but my system is the best. Mine is the simplest, most efficient system. So, of course, I think that. Thank you, everybody who supports me in all the ways that you do, even if it's just clicking like and subscribe, because that's algorithm relevancy. Algorithm relevancy translates to traffic. Traffic means website. Traffic means people are booking lessons. They're buying PDF downloads. They're supporting me on Patreon. Heck, man, some people are just throwing money at me these days, which is... Thank you. That means I can eat and pay my rent and continue to navigate this weird world that we're all in. As Bill and Ted would say, be excellent to each other. That includes yourself. And I'll be back next Friday with, I think we're going to talk about double stops. A little review of double stops yet again, because they're beautiful. And again, they can be super cool. All right, yeah. Happy Friday. Eat pizza.